What is Antichrist? Let's talk about it. Christ. What a word. What a word that you hear everywhere. Jesus Christ, am I right? Well, I'm not necessarily talking about Jesus Christ, but I am talking about the Christ. I'm talking about the Christ consciousness and the Christ itself. The Christ energy and the idea of Antichrist. Nowadays, I feel like we seem to attach a very specific thing to Antichrist. Antichrist has become something that has to be a specific thing, and we are all expecting one thing in particular. This one thing is Antichrist. What if in reality, Christ was simply the divine mind, the divine flow, the divine consciousness of the universe, and everything that simply isn't that is Antichrist? What if Christ energy and Christ mind was actually about releasing the ego, releasing the ideas that come from a space of our own created self, rather than from the space of simply pure awareness? Awareness, existence, flowing with the river of life. That is the Christ. The Christ is about stepping into basically a mind of nothing, where there is no attachment to the ego, there's no attachment to the self, and there's no attachment to the world. The body simply becomes the vessel for the Christ mind to express itself through. And the Christ mind exists in a space of pure love. Why? Because that is where the universe was created from. It's from pure love. Everything that isn't love, and I love this idea, everything that isn't love, in a sense, doesn't exist. In a sense, it is a creation of the ego, but it doesn't actually align with the intentions of the universe. It is the self deciding that this ego is going to create whatever it desires, because the ego begins to believe, or tends to believe, that by fulfilling something in the outer world, it can create happiness in the inner world. But I think, I hope that by now we've started to learn that the outer world isn't going to fulfill our inner cravings, and that inner peace actually comes from aligning ourselves with something much higher than ourselves. But in some ways, it is no higher than ourselves, and it is simply who we are. It is simply our existence, our consciousness, and our highest mind that is aligned with the mind of that which created us. Going back to the idea of I and my Father are one. The idea that the mind becomes a vessel for the living word. That the mind becomes a vessel for the Christ, for the loving consciousness. And anything that isn't that, anything that presents itself as something that is opposite to that or is outside of that, that is Antichrist. Whereas everything that is within the realm of love is Christ. You can almost see it as, I will maybe put up a little something around to draw this out, but you can almost see it as the creation of the source and then the timeline of love. And then everything outside of that is created by the ego doesn't exist in this timeline. In a sense, it's just the figment of the imagination. It's the imagination creating the world that it lives in and that it believes to be true, when in reality, upon death or upon rebirth, I'm a believer in reincarnation, upon rebirth, you realize that whatever you were attached to didn't really exist outside of your own belief system. And if you were to come back to life, there would be no way truly, maybe, for you to prove that what it was that you believed existed. Even if you remembered it, that's the other aspect. There's definitely been some interesting cases where things like that have happened, but it's hard to justify anything that just exists in our own mind that doesn't necessarily hold truth with the alignment of the universe itself. So Antichrist is everything that isn't Christ. And that's a pretty interesting idea to me. So what does Antichrist mean to you? What does Christ mean to you? These are some pretty big words that we're starting to dive into, but that was the initial intention of Studio Raphael, and we just kind of needed a little time to warm up into it. So like, comment, subscribe, get engaged, get involved with the Studio Raphael community. My name's Aiden. I'm super excited to have you here. We're just going to keep building. We're going to keep growing. We're going to keep discussing. We're going to keep sharing and anything else with a positive mindset and a loving mindset. And let's just see where that takes us, because you can't know without trying, right? So yeah, once again, my name's Aiden. Wishing you all the best, and hopefully I'll see you around the studio sometime. Take care.